The title of my academic showcase project is Why We Give a Whoop and You Should Too, Whooping Crane Restoration Efforts at the Patuxent Wildlife Research Center. My name is Carly Giltonen, and I'm a sophomore here at the University of Maryland. I'm an animal sciences major on the pre-professional track, and I'm a part of the Science and Global Change Scholars Program. The Patuxent Wildlife Research Center is located in Laurel, Maryland, which is about a 15-minute drive from College Park. It has been the captive rearing site for whooping cranes since 1967 and also is the site of research and refuge for several other avian species. What are whooping cranes? Standing at 5 feet in height and with a wingspan of 7.5 feet, whooping cranes are the tallest North American bird. They are distinguished by their solid white feathers with black wingtips, long and thin black legs, bright yellow eyes, and a red cap on the top of their head. Whooping cranes are named for their distinctive whooping call. There are migratory and non-migratory flocks which inhabit wetland areas throughout eastern North America. They are one of North America's most endangered species. In 1941, there were only 15 whooping cranes left. There are 633 whooping cranes living today, 492 of which are in the wild, and 161 of which are in captivity. In the image shown, there is an adult whooping crane on the left and a juvenile on the right. Aside from size differences, the two can be distinguished due to the differences in color. Over the years, several methods of reintroduction of whooping cranes into the wild have been attempted, the first of which has been costume rearing. In costume rearing, it is the job of the technicians to assume the role of parent. As an intern, a big part of my job was teaching chicks tasks such as eating and drinking as soon as they were hatched out. To do this, you could simply take the puppet head, wet it a little bit, and put it into the food, at which point the chick would start to eat directly off of the beak. In the images shown, you can see me teaching a chick, which is probably about 3 or 4 days old, how to eat. At times it could prove very challenging as the chicks were pretty easily distracted, but after doing it enough times, the chicks finally would get the hang of eating and drinking on their own. At first, this would be done every hour, in addition to frequent checks of the chicks to see that they were eating and drinking properly on their own. As the chicks continue to grow, it is also the job of the crane parent to weigh each day and to monitor the growth of chicks by comparing daily percent weight gains. To weigh a chick, you could simply put the scale in front of the door to their pen and lure them forward with grapes or mealworms. Since they're pretty bonded to the costume, this isn't the most difficult task, but getting them to step onto the scale could sometimes prove difficult. Another job of crane parent was to exercise the chicks each day. In the morning, each chick gets to go on a 10-minute walk, sometimes individually or in pairs or in trios, just depending on how they get along with other chicks. This was probably my favorite part as an intern, since it just showed how well bonded the chicks were to the technicians. In order to get a chick to go on a walk, you could simply use a vocalizer, which imitates the mothering sounds of a whooping crane, and open up the pen, and the chick would simply follow. Then we could walk out and just follow a path, usually along one of the fields outside. After 10 minutes, we would return, at which point you would usually give the chick a little treat for being good, and then they would go back into their pen. While costume rearing is good in some ways, there also are some drawbacks, one of which is the reproductive success of cranes following reintroduction into the wild. It's thought that the result of this is probably the fact that they're more bonded to a costume than they are to the adult whooping crane. As a result, new methods, such as parent rearing, have been attempted. Parent rearing was recently started, and the objective of this is to have the chick raised by actual whooping crane parents, rather than the costume technician. The reason that this is possible is because of the growing numbers of captive whooping cranes which can be used to do so. Despite the chicks being raised by parents, they still need to be closely monitored. In order to do daily health checks, you would have to enter the pen with both adult whooping cranes and the chick. At times, this could be pretty scary considering the aggression of adult birds. In order to make sure that you are safe, you could enter the pen using a broom. Typically, the crane would stay towards the back, but if they were to attack, you would have a broom to defend yourself. Other times, they would just kind of peck at the broom, but it was a good way to keep distance between the two of you. During the checks, you would pick up the chick, perform a daily health exam, and you would also do pen maintenance, so refilling the feed and changing out their foot baths. What comes next for chicks after leaving Patuxent? The role of the Patuxent Wildlife Research Center is simply to raise chicks from eggs into juveniles so that they can move on to their next step of the release process. In this image, we are sending off chicks to Wisconsin in order to be raised into young adults, at which point they can be released into the wild and taught to migrate. Contributing to this research has impacted me very much, and I'll be returning next summer to continue rearing whooping cranes for release.